the way that you tell a story about something that happened to you, and when you've told the story, the obsession with telling it exactly right can lock you. If you're too detached, it becomes about nothing but you. So, you know, it's just about what you want to say and not what you have to say about this particular place. For an artistic fact or intervention or act to work, it has to be specific. You can't say something general.
It's a kind of, for me, it's part of my psyche that I think I need to be outside and to be out doing stuff and to be out solving problems, climbing. To me, it's something important psychologically, I think, and for my sense of what I want to do with my life. I kind of think places like this are actually very human because of the things you have to do to adapt to be here.
I just saw how much wood you've got.
Yes.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Ah. Wow. Hey.
Most of my practice is based around my passion for mountaineering and rock climbing, so it's not unusual for me to be going away doing strange art projects on crags, mountains or beaches even, all around the world. So it's kind of what I do. But this is interesting in particular because it connects with working with Steve. Kind of the collaboration's mostly between myself and Steve in terms of developing ideas and kind of exchange. But really for me it was interesting because it explores these boundaries which my work kind of always does between art and sport or art and rock climbing. You know, is there a creative element to rock climbing? So for me it's useful to kind of bring that into a project and explore the boundaries between climbing, art, dance, sport. You know, is climbing a sport?
So what we're going to be doing is taking this one cove, which is called Porta Doris, near Struve in North Inishowen, and it's a relatively enclosed place. It's got a natural arch that goes into the cove. Beautiful place. It has nice, relatively simple and small rock climbing possibilities in it. Nice places to swim wild, nice places to sit. Great sound from the sea, and what we'll be doing is engaging in many ways with sound, with video, with photography, with movement, and getting to know this relatively limited environment in a very, very detailed way. We'll build a structure which is has a kind of brings a different quality of texture into that environment, more shiny, and then we'll come back after we've been there for 2 weeks and we'll create an installation in this space here, which is Echo Echo's home base in Bishop Street, which will be a kind of moving the camp from there to here and moving the memories and the creative responses, and that will have projection, images, sound recording and movement performances over a period of about a bit more than a week.
I think dance is kind of in the middle of the web, really, between sport, between physical education, between the arts, culture. It fits with education. It can be very commercial on one hand, it can be very poetic, it can be very athletic. The project that we're exploring at present, which is climbing and movement, is a collaboration between Echo Echo's artistic director, Steve Batts, and the fine artist and climbing enthusiast, professional, Dan Shipsides. So the idea is to really investigate what movement there is in climbing and how dance can be really related to that. The Legacy Trust funding that was awarded to Echo Echo is for 3 different productions that are taking place. One took place last year, which was the chess piece. We're looking at chess as being the sport of the mind. So we've kind of come at the sporting angle from a bit of a left field point of view. The second production, which is taking place this year, is linking climbing, rock climbing, and dance and movement. And the third production, which will take place next year, is really to investigate Olympics and the Olympic ideal, the way that people have experienced the Olympic Games, mostly through the media, through TV, not first hand.
in truth. So we're going to, we have to take all our stuff about 20 minutes around the coast that way, through the gate here, down through the field and round the coast. It's quite rocky at the beginning, it's just through the field, but then it's quite a kind of few places where you have to scramble over some rocks. Not so far, not so difficult walk, but there'll be a lot of toing and froing because we have a lot of equipment, so we reckon it's going to be probably 6 trips backwards and forwards. So it'll be a few hours of hiking and carrying and stuff. So the first thing is just to get the bigger tent set up, so we'll take that down, set up the bigger tent, and then they will have somewhere to store stuff, and then we can just work backwards and forwards. Yeah. So the big installation that Dan's going to make, which is a platform which will be on the beach, is the big thing, because that's wood and plywood and stuff.
We've got the tent set up, which is great.
Did you see the seal? This is base camp here, yeah. If you go a bit further around here, you'll see I'll take you and you can see. So this is the cove, this is Portadoris. You can feel it has different atmosphere in here already. You feel the wind and the sound is different, and this slab of rock up here is, this is a very, very nice place to climb. Not too steep, but some different difficulties of climb over here. Lots of nice places on the other side here to do some bouldering, some nice traverses. So it's kind of, you can live in here, explore in here, not just in the flat, so you have this other dimension of the height. So the vertical journey, that's vertical nature base. So we have this idea of a base, and we have the idea of the natural environment, and this idea that the vertical space is also part of where we live. Well, strangely enough, when we arrived, this thing wasn't there, so now it is the shiny thing. So we built something that's different from the textures in the cove. So that gives us also a kind of focus for things that we're doing. There's a good moment when the platform was kind of in place and built, and all the layers were put on, and it was obviously strong enough to move on, and you could look at it and go, it's nice. And that was an excitement moment, and then a moment of freedom. Oh, now we can see kind of that we did the digging and the planting, and now possibility for little creative shoots to grow. And then with Esther and Bridget coming from Echo coming up to work with us today and stay over the weekend, then it's a possibility for a lot of very exciting and interesting things to happen.
The context of the place is what leads most of the aesthetics, I think, and that's important. I think it's not that we're coming here to impose something from elsewhere, even though that's quite imposing, and in a way that's the paradox of it. That it is you respond to the place and to the context of what you're doing, which includes climbing, which is in some ways kind of has its own modes and systems and aesthetics, but it also has a kind of an immediacy with the environment that kind of brings a necessity of different types of movement.
We found the place, we had an idea we wanted to do something outside, and then to see what our response to that was. So the building of the platform wasn't an idea, oh, we'll build a platform and take it somewhere. It was because of this cove that we wanted to build the platform. What I like about this cove is that, in a funny way, it's that I don't like it. So a lot of places along this coast have this sort of darkness, and there is a song about dark Inishowen. Always feel like Inishowen is not such a, it doesn't have that western kind of sunset thing or the eastern sunrise thing. It's kind of in between. It's a very northern feeling to it, and that cove for me is very dark because it feels like a place to go to do something that touches something a bit darker, a bit more foreboding or fearful or grey. It's got that greyness to it. The green is much different here. The green is much different feeling than the green in there, I find. And that I think gives a wider range. So it's not so much like, okay, go out into the country and have a nice time. It's not like a picnic place in a way. In there is not a place I would go for a picnic. The picnic's out here. There was an old guy along here picking dulse and carrageen moss, and then he said the spring here is called the Madman's Well, and it was where people would come to cure themselves of madness. And he was funny. He said to me, so maybe you need a bit of that then, wouldn't you? And he said, but don't be drinking too much now. You wouldn't want to go too far the other way. So. And then he said that on the field just by the Madman's Well is the place where they used to gather to dance. So presumably it's kind of out of sight of the priest and the village. For me, especially, the idea that people were dancing here is like, that's great, because actually, so it's not so weird to go out along the path, towards Portadoris and dance. Actually, that's not weird. Well, it's no more weird than it's ever been, anyway. Base of the toes with the throat and shoulder girdle, and the tips of the toes with it. So what I'm going to ask you to do, first we'll do a little bit of focusing and getting into the senses, and then I'll ask you to go away and decide where your frame is. And it's a three-dimensional frame, so it's a box of some kind in a way. So you say, okay, this is my area, and you know what's in it and what's not in it. But it might be the whole boulder, it might be this whole area here. It could be even somewhere, it could be the whole cove, or that wall over there or something. So in principle you choose the place, so you start by framing where it is you want to explore and listening. What do you hear when you're in the frame, and how does it change when you step out? Texture. So you're looking for what is the texture as you enter the frame, and as you leave it, how does the texture change? You can taste and smell if you want to. If you think you want to lick the rock or whatever it is, the grass, taste it, but at least smell.
I came with a pretty open mind to really be part of what Steve's process was. I didn't want to come with too much baggage or thoughts or preparation as well. I just wanted to come with an open heart and just to really soak up the environment for what it was.
Because Steve told us to go away and be in our little place for 40 minutes. Well, as soon as I came to this beach, I saw a little place that I just loved immediately. So I went to that little place to be in it. And I thought, I'm never going to be here for 40 minutes just looking around this place and seeing what's in this place. And, it was amazing. The 40 minutes just slipped by, and you felt the textures of the rocks and the lichen and the little dried flowers, and where, each rock met another rock and what was holding the rock up, and underneath a pool of pebbles. And just everything. You had so long to look at it and to observe it, and not just with your eyes, but as Steve had said, you saw it also with your body. You felt it. You felt, what it was like to sit on different bits of it or to lie on different bits of it. It was just amazing.
I had no real conception of what was to be expected, so I was quite open and just kind of took it as it happens, and I haven't tried anything like this before.
Vital words in connection with this is the whole idea of what you would call critical engagement. How do we engage with the landscape as artists in a critical way, a far more critical way, where we do more than just draw pictures or just observe, but in fact engage with it in a very physical way. And he's talked about engaging all our senses, which is perhaps more than we would frequently think about. So there have been enormous challenges today, very important challenges, and I think I've been able to respond to them already in ways which are making me ask questions about how I approach my own work and how it's going to be shaped maybe in the future.
Because you're not inside a studio, then it's less like you're like dancing, you know. It's kind of more like an exploration of like the rock and then how you put that onto the stage. So it's just different.
Whilst I'm here, I'm kind of wanting to use my time to boulder around the cliffs and kind of, you know, that's my embodying process. First time it's quite often quite clunky and clumsy and a bit of a grunt. Second time, you know, you polish some of those moves up a bit, and third time it can be very fluid and you're more relaxed. So the second climb is quite steep at the start. You kind of have to do a layback move, which means committing all your weight to your foot against the wall and get your rest the weight on your arms in a crack and then reaching for the top. So for people who haven't kind of climbed strenuously in that kind of way, it means linking together a sequence of moves rather than doing one stop, look around to climb a ladder type thing. So it means you have to kind of think the move through a bit more. And you move from being someone who's unsure about the ropes, the whole activity, what's going on, having to wear a silly hat and harness, to someone who's kind of a bit more comfortable, kind of knows what they are trying to do and is thinking ahead rather than just thinking just this kind of narrow space here. So I think this idea of kind of going and really thinking about that space you're in and the activity, so a kind of mental, psychological, but also about the granularness of it, so very close up, thinking about that crack that you're getting your hands into, thinking about the moss that's growing there, the different colours, and thinking about a movement in response to those things as much as the actual physical climbing movements. So I would hope that people kind of got something from that in terms of thinking about climbing as more than climbing a difficult ladder, that it's to do with different types of movement, kind of opposing forces rather than just kind of putting a weight on your hands and feet. It's more like that, you know, and you go up that way.
It's a beautiful afternoon with seeing people dance in spite of the midges, and the exploration of the cove began. I had an opportunity to see other people do a process that I do a lot, and then climbing this morning. Dan introducing some of the things, and repeating a climb was lovely because it's not such a common thing to do. I think it's just to really do the climb again and again and watch each other do it and do it again and get familiar with the process. So it's more about a relationship with the landscape, with the rock, and having time to appreciate your feelings and sensations. I knew the place a bit before, but now I'm getting more and more familiar with the details of it, which was the point of this project. And it is quite a magical place, and I still have this very strong feeling that it's quite a dark place, and there's always this very strong impression I have when I leave, like to be in here, walking out, you get a sense of sort of peacefulness actually, and in here it's quite intense, and I think that's got a lot to do with the sound environment in here, because it's very enclosed sound environment, so you always have this feeling of intensity of sound, and you don't really notice how intense it is till you go out and you feel this space.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
Collect midges.
Some hat trees to bring in, fresh hat trees. Drive up here every morning.
Climbing and then maybe a bit of exploring. Dan is just fearless.
we're not really coming from the world of climbing. We're coming from, you know, maybe the world of dance and art. For artists, you know, of any medium, it's not just enough to have the experience, but you've got to articulate it in some way.
I did it 4 times yesterday. By the first time was really tricky. By the second and third I had the swing of it. 4th time I was flying up it, but today I was trying to find the same holes, but it was more difficult. I think when you predetermine the route, it doesn't quite work. I think you just have to find your way as you go. But it was good, enjoyed it.
When you do a climb for the first time and you lead it and nobody else has put it in the guidebook, then you get to name it. Actually, Dan did one, which is apparently not in the guidebook, which we haven't decided on a name for yet, but he gets the right to name that. I love all this stuff. I'm such a bad climber, but I love all of this, the kind of cultural things, artifacts that come around this activity of basically doing something that is, you know, has no functional purpose, but when you do it is incredibly practical. I've got 6 or 7 parts of the cove which I've really investigated in a lot of detail and done some movement creation from those things, recorded them in detail, photographs, some notes, naming things, these kind of things, so that when we go to the studio, you're drawing from a rich bag of experience. When you have a more detailed, researched memory, you have much more possibility for surprise and for randomness, for deeper responses at a distance.
I've been kind of getting interested in filming and photographing the platform at different times of day, different light, different surface to it, because I think the surface has become quite interesting. Just because the way it collects water or it dries off, there's kind of a bit of salt stains on there now. I'm kind of glad that the platform is kind of working as well as it is as a kind of sculpture, but also as a thing for people to engage with. This is it, nearly all done, nearly all cleared away. I've come up with these terms, anti-burn and after-burn. So anti-burn meaning the kind of things you come into a place like this with. So it might be the kind of thoughts of work still buzzing around in your head, it might be family things, it might be all kinds of good things and bad things. And then when you get to a place like this and start adapting and living here and, you know, spending a few days or longer here, how long that stuff takes to disappear or change, or what remains, what actually does stay in, you know, maybe it's different songs that still keep coming to it. And then the flip side of that is when you've been here for a period of time and then you go back to your regular routine of life, how long does this experience kind of stay in your mind or in your body even, you know? So yeah, anti-burn and after-burn. So I'm intrigued as to kind of what will stay with me from here, what memories, what senses, what sensations. Well, we're in Bishop Street, Derry. 11 days since we're in the Cove. 11 days ago we left the Cove, brought all materials here, and intermittently we've been working in the space, installing the platform, rebuilding the platform, changing the angle on it so it's not quite as flat as it was. It's got quite a steeper slope on it now, which is quite nice because it's a dance studio, and didn't really want it to be immediately thought of or seen as a dance stage, like a kind of disco platform or shit, because it's silver, shiny, kind of got this disco-y kind of references. Yeah, as an artist who's usually shown in galleries, I'm very pleased with this. You know, I think it stands up as an exhibition, with or without anything else that's there, you know, the kind of movement pieces, and with it being in a kind of dance context. So even as an exhibition, I think it's really quite a strong exhibition. The memory of camping has kind of subsided. I think we've been so busy, it's kind of washed away all of that into kind of the other set of practicalities and logistics and nuts and bolts, basically. I miss the Cove, though.
What I like about the installation is there's some bits that are clearly mine, clearly Dan's. But then there's bits that you wouldn't really know who's who, kind of thing. Like the video stuff sits together very well, I think, and some of the pieces are his pieces and some of the bits are mine, and some of the bits are I edited things that he shot with me in them, and other bits where somebody else is in the video, and also the layers of the installation are nice, because there's a kind of, you know, there's a strong built, you know, almost architectural object, and then there's found object. There's driftwood, I think is lovely, and then there is kind of relatively handmade things, you know, that are around, and then there's some technology and so on. So it's kind of you know, like there's a lot of different layers of it, and it's like strata somehow in the rock or something like that. I like that feeling. And when we move to a more theatre context, the dynamic's going to change, because that's more my home in a way. Yeah.
So what we're doing here in the studio in Bishop Street is a memory. Really, we're composing from memory of places
that we investigated while we were down in Truve. So it's your memory of maybe the rock that you climbed or the grass you were working in. So you're working from your memory of that and then using that memory to compose the movement here.
Mm. It's really dependent on just having the time to prepare before you go into the movement. So really try and revisit the place that we were in, you know. Yeah. I think I think it just helps for a better composition. Again, it's a different awareness, and it changes the dance then, you know. It's richer, it's more authentic. It was great though. Definitely experience.